At the end, the margin was just 8 runs, but what an effort from the man from Kingston, Jamaica, Rovman Powell. One of his nicknames is the Knight, and he couldn't have chosen a better ground, the home of the Knight Riders, to go and perform an innings of 68 of 36 deliveries. The only pity from the West Indies perspective is it came in a losing cause. Nicholas Puran also outstanding, 62 of 41. But at the end, a couple of bowlers, couple of Indian fast bowlers holding their nerve. A 10-run over, a single-digit over when the required rate was 12s and 13s and the margins were slim. Great game of cricket. At the end, India taking out the series by 2 matches to 0. Here we are to review that on Cricbuzz Live. Ajay Jadeja and Dinesh Karthik for company. DK, that was close. It's a kind of game as a neutral you'd love to watch, but from an Indian perspective, they were getting a little nervous.
Yes, I think, but as an Indian, we should learn to embrace these games because these are the kind of games that's going to help you when you play multi-nation tournaments. Not everything is going to be one-sided. You're going to get teams competing, and you need to know who's able to hold their nerve, who's able to, deal with such situations better. And it's good to see Team India, embracing this format and this pressure. Actually, in many ways, I thought two power hitters in Puran and Powell playing right up to the end, massive partnership, 100 plus. And generally when that happens you tend to win the game, but still holding on at the last moment, bowling terrifically well in the last 3 overs.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see if we had a look at history of T20 chases, Ajay. How many of them would a team finish on the losing side, having lost only 3 wickets?
I was going to say that the word that you taught me the other day is probably anomaly. You'd not see many games where the opposition is only 2 down in the 19th over, because actually even the third wicket fell in the 19th. So if you get to that stage in 19th over and still end up on the losing side, probably happens very rarely. And it just shows that, you got to feel the game, not think too much. And I think once again, West Indies has shown you that, they probably thought more than what they should have been thinking. They were too cautious to start with, whether it was that first game where they had Roston Chase coming up to bat, or today they had their openers the way they started off. I think they're worried so much about, holding wickets together that they forgot to, look after the total and what they had to do at the end. I personally felt that they would never fall short with the kind of firepower that they have. I mean, look at the guys who still haven't come in. Even at the 10 over mark, I had a firm belief that, if they don't lose too many wickets, they will get there. And, somehow it's just gone. It's a couple of balls here and there. And I'm totally with DK that these are the games that you really test out people's temperament. And, your seamers, you've got to give it to them, whether it's, Bhuvi or whether it's Harshal Patel. And of course, the other three bowlers alongside with them, that they held their nerves and they believed in that. They knew that, or at least in their hearts, they knew that they were doing whatever they could do best. And there's nothing you can do about what the guy's doing at the other end. And they carried on doing what they know. And what we keep hearing that line, process. That process was followed and India came out as winners.
Yeah, I think Bhuvaneshwar Kumar sort of embraced that when he talked at the end of the game about the fact that they felt they had it under control, but he certainly contributed. Before we talk about them in more detail, the number that we just questioned, Ajay, or thought might be the case, well, the only other instance of a team losing 3 or fewer wickets in a failed run chase in an uninterrupted T20I, of course, there could be truncated games, 7, 8, 9 overs where that happens, was Bangladesh, who scored 179 for 1 at Mirpur against West Indies, who had put on 197 for 4. So, I mean, that would have been, as you said, another anomaly where they would have just been going really hard, 9 wickets in the tank, but they just ran out of overs, fell 20 runs, less than 20 runs short. But to come back to the point that we were making, DK, you started making that point. I think let's have a look at India's bowling resources and see just how they were managed and who were the guys who put their hands up. Chahal played a different role, 4 overs inside the first 10. Bishnoi was there to take his wickets. But the key overs, DK, Harshal Patel, Bhuvaneshwar Kumar, despite that dropped catch of his own bowling, kept his nerve.
As a captain, these are the games you when you reflect on, you think, wow, those are the kind of guys I would need under pressure. People who are able to absorb pressure, people who are able to understand how to bowl with a wet ball. That gives you confidence. You get the feeling that, okay, this guy can bowl with a wet ball as well. And those are important feelings as a captain. And that's what he would have got. You can see Bhuvi, is worth its weight in gold. Harshal Patel, I thought, bowled brilliantly. Just giving 8 runs in that 18th over was very, very critical. Yes, the last over he went for runs, but that's okay. You could see with his body language, he felt completely comfortable. Even after giving those 2 sixes, he knew he would deliver. We all got the same feeling. Yes, those 2 sixes were not great balls, but that happens and that's okay. Those are the kind of overs. If it was the 18th over, then game over there. If the 18th over had been what the 20th over was, the game was over there. But for him to make sure that he bowled a calm, good over with a couple of Yorkers, a couple of slow ones into the wicket, and a couple of slower bouncers, I thought he mixed it up really well. And we got to remember that there were 2 set batsmen at that stage, so that was fabulous bowling from Bhuvi and Harshal. And the others complemented, but I think these two stood out at the end.
Yes, sometimes, Ajay, you do have the benefit towards the end of a couple of easy deliveries. And when I say easy deliveries, it means maybe a new batsman has come to the wicket and you have that chance. Here, as DK said, there were 2 guys not only hitting the ball well, but hitting them so hard, you'd almost be scared to bowl. And that's one of the questions Bhuvi was asked at the end. When Rovman is hitting it that hard, I mean, you almost hold back from bowling that slower delivery, but he got that length right for the Yorkers. He was able to bowl a slower one if he needed to, when he needed to.
Yeah, and that's the temperament, I think, that shows, because skills are, these skills. In fact, everybody knows what Harshal Patel bowls, but it's not, one is to know what's coming and the other is to be able to, do what you're going to do with it. And when you bowl that, I think, DK hit it right, because 18th over was the key, even for me, because that's where the game changed. Yes, 19th over looks better on, numbers, only 4 of that over. Because when you start from 35, 37 in 3 and you get an 8-run over, and then you're desperate. And that's where, Bhuvneshwar Kumar's experience came in. Is the first couple of balls is when he took that chance. He bowled those slow ones, kept them away, and then the Yorkers came in. A little lucky as well, I would say, when Roman Powell got to his 50, he missed that full toss. I think a few full tosses, were missed, but, that's part of the game. Sometimes you get an inside edge and it goes for 4 as well. But at the end of the day, I think the bowlers probably held their nerves. And somehow you got the feeling that the West Indies, I don't think panicked. I mean, I don't think they lost this game because they really panicked or something went wrong. It's just that, the way they were calculating, they were beaten by mind by Bhuvneshwar Kumar in that 19th over, and then with that final slower one that Harshal Patel bowled. And yes, you're absolutely right. You need guts. It's almost like a spinner, right? I mean, when you bowl that ball slower, what is it? I mean, you're not going to give somebody pace to guide you for 4, but you give them a chance to hit you for a 6. So are you ready to, play that game, to, take that chance of saying, listen, I don't believe that you can strike me every time. I will beat you. And I think that's what, the mindset showed. I mean, that's the mindset that I saw today.
Well, at the start of this T20I series, we did talk about the dynamics of the IPL auction and what result it would have on players coming in here. In the ODI series, it was different. You were almost playing to give your CV to different teams. Here, it was how much have you gone for? How do you react to that? Certainly, DK, Rovman Powell has shown he's celebrated his addition to Delhi. Whether or not he gets enough game time, we won't know. Nicholas Puran certainly will get game time for Hyderabad.
Yes, I think both these batters brilliantly. Nicholas Puran, the way he kind of made sure his innings was there at the back end. That is important. How you build an inning. He's somebody we all know can play shots, but I thought he built his inning well. He was lucky. Bishnoi dropped a straightforward chance. That's 2 on the trot for Bishnoi. I think he definitely needs to take Chahal for a couple of dinners and make sure he's happy. But I do think that, Nicholas Puran batted really well, not only this game, last game as well, but Rovman Powell was special. You could see the power he possesses, the ability to hit flat sixes. Literally, I saw him hit a 6 in Barbados against Chris Jordan, it was, if I'm right. And that literally took off like a space shuttle. So he's got some proper power there.
Yeah, he certainly does.
Reminds you of a different kind of, DK's teammate, Andre Russell, isn't he? I mean, which one would you think is more powerful? I mean, when they hit the ball?
That'll be a close guess. They both can hit the ball really powerfully well. I think, I haven't seen Powell bat in person. Then I could definitely give you on TV. It does look
Yeah.
like the way the fields are set. If you miss, it's a boundary.
Yeah, I think the only distinction I would give, just as a neutral observer, is maybe Andre Russell is more of a six hitter than Rovman Powell. Like for like with boundaries, with fours, I think Rovman would outdo Andre Russell just because he tends to hit them that much higher in that arc.
Fair enough.
But yeah, all powerful. Just imagine adding Andre Russell to this lineup, and you'd see a lot of totals chased down. But again, to finish off on Puran, Ajay, you could see the body language from the West Indies players. They've got that close. Obviously, the guys out in the middle were feeling it, but they cut to Puran in the dugout, and you could see head in his hands. He had taken them that close and just couldn't get over the line.
I mean, probably being very critical, but I mean, he's only got himself to blame when he's got his head, because he had his luck, as DK said at the start. He's in form. And I always say this, because maybe, guys who bat later in the innings have this thing in them that, if you've been batting 40, 50, 60 and whatever's required, whether it's 4 and over or 8 and over or 12 and over, if the guy being in there playing 40 odd balls feels that it's impossible and he has to throw his bat around, how do you expect the guy who's just walking out of that dugout, although it's not a dressing room, I know the light is same, things have changed in, times, but he's still sitting in that dugout. His, blood's not moving. And when you throw it away, it looks, because the scorecard, what we saw now says, fabulous, so many balls, so many runs, you've done so well. But at the end, and I'm a big fan of Puran, and that's why I always say the guys who have got runs have to finish the game. So he'd be disappointed, and as he was at the end, but he's got himself to blame because he shouldn't be disappointed with his partner or with Pollard, who walked in and was almost like last ball he defended as if he was upset with something or there's something wrong. But I think he's got himself to blame, no one else. He's a fabulous player, there's no doubt. If he gets out early, things go wrong, that's fine. But when you have a good day and you can't take your team through, then I start looking at a player and say, like, what is he useful? Because, he's also going to get out someday at 0 or at 10 or 20. Everyone's going to get out. This is his good day. And if he hasn't got you past the line, then you got to start thinking.
Well, at the end of the day, it might have been a matter of a few runs, but the very fact that India got to where they got was all thanks to a platform. It seems a long time ago, after the Powell innings, the Puran innings, and the Pant innings that we've seen, and Venkatesh Iyer as well. Let's not forget the man who will be sharing a dugout with Dinesh Karthik in a few days' time, Virat Kohli. We talked about him at the start. There were people out there who were asking a few questions. We showed you his strike rate, his average. We said all was well, 450s in 9 innings, and he added another one today, DK. And he played a little bit differently, a little bit out of his comfort zone, admitted it in the interview afterwards. And I think that's good to see from a person who's already been there and done so much.
Yes, I think he came out with a very clear mind. He wanted to attack from ball one. This is one shot that stands out. His first boundary of Akil Hussain, just a flick of the pad. That's genius. Actually, it's very hard to hit such a shot and make it look much easier than what it is. He's a class act. I think it was so good to see him, attack bowlers right from the outset and keep that momentum going throughout. I know he would be disappointed. He was, in fact, disappointed after he got out, but. He's one of those guys. If he just crosses that phase, he's one of the most destructive players at the last 5 overs as well. The record says so. The statistics say so. And he's somebody who, if in form, he is exactly what Ajay Bhai was talking about. Somebody who will win you games when he bats well on a day.
And Ajay, the shot that DK is talking about, let's just add to the fact that the previous ball, Karan Pollard had come with a helmet, stood right there at forward short leg, just to maybe throw him off a little bit. It's not that he tried to hit his way by slogging past Pollard. He just flicked it nicely past him to say, I know you're there. I don't care.
I think that's a great observation, because I think the two things that were different today, apart from, he'll keep scoring. He scored all his life and he'll keep scoring. I think not to worry. One was that Pollard, when he walked in, suddenly there was a moment where Virat Kohli must have not experienced for a very, very long time. Virat Kohli, when he walks into bat, teams are not looking to get him out first ball or thinking, let's try and attack him. So that, puts you in a different frame of mind. And as he said himself as well, it's nice to have not a full house, but at least had some people into the crowd. Because Virat Kohli, I believe, has always thrived on the energy around him and from the ground. Because when there's, situation or bigger the game, Virat Kohli becomes this larger than, life personality. He brings out something special. So you did see those two things, I think probably were the key. But it was an anomaly as well, because his innings, when you look at those runs and balls, very similar at the end of most of his innings. But the pattern was different. Today, the pattern was totally different. I mean, yes, of course, first ball boundary, but it didn't stop there. Even when Holder came in, first ball over, mid-off, long-off, and, attacked all the way. And then he just, took a back seat and, wickets fell around him. I can understand. But normally it's the other way around. He takes his time and then he just explodes. So an anomaly there today as well.
Yeah, and I think
I've used it 4 times today.
Fair enough. Fair enough. You never know about what floodgates might open. But his own words at the end, in case you might have not heard it or seen it, I kind of sum up exactly what both Ajay and DK have been saying. He said, I was happy that I went out with clear intent today, not think so much about whether I should try my shots or not, and it came off. Because that's obviously the Virat Kohli we know will think a little bit about it. He'll think about the fact that it's Virat Kohli batting out there, and he tried to take that off. It's a nice way to start the innings for myself. When you play with responsibility over a long period of time, you tend to go into a mindset where you start thinking too much about whether you can take a risk or not, and that's what he didn't do today. I think sometimes you tend to forget why you got to the stage you got to, and it's important to back your instincts. And I think that, again, is something, DK, we touched upon in the pre-show when we said that, look, there's a reason why he's got where he's got. And there is a reason why we should not be looking at numbers purely in terms of a few quiet innings. That's the word that you used. Whereas that's exactly what he applied here, Virat Kohli.
It's a very interesting line that he says. When you play with a lot of responsibility over a period of time, sometimes you tend to overthink, and that's happened. For him, it's at the international level. For various other players who played there, I'm sure Ajay Bhai has seen that as well. You think twice before taking a risk, whereas the batsman with the lesser baggage doesn't think twice. He believes the risk is the best option at that point of time. That's the difference between a lot of the times. That's what age does to you. I think after a point, you tend to just think that bit before taking a risk. And you could see where he was coming from, but he batted beautifully today.
Certainly did, to set the platform. And
Gautam, I think, probably the only person who could actually relate to what Virat is talking about is Sachin Tendulkar. And he isn't too far. I mean, if he's made a call to him after that 2014 England series, because, the situation that he's talked about, a lot of people may have experienced it at other levels. But at the level that Virat Kohli is, I think there's a man called Sachin Tendulkar who's still around. Maybe a call in the evening or a dinner when he gets to Bombay, he could share. And somebody who's been through that road will always be able to guide you there. So I think, there's a dinner due between Tendulkar and Virat Kohli. I hope I can get to see that very soon, because he's been through this road. And everybody from outside has watched it. There was a period where Tendulkar there were different players, and he was aggressive and he was responsible, and then he went into that shell. Then, something brought it out. So he can share it with him. Maybe it's time to give him a call.
Yeah, I know. I mean, if you think about it, Tendulkar's quite a foodie and always has been. So already starting to think what that dinner menu might be along with the conversation. And it's not... Yeah, well, that's the problem. On the other side, SRT won't be. He'll be having everything under the sun. I think it's the conversation that will bind them together. But the other dinner we spoke about that's likely to happen soon is between Ravi Bishnoi and Yuzvendra Chahal. Just a little bit of a make-up in terms of those couple of catches. But the other reason I bring them up, of course, Ajay, is the performance of both the bowlers in very different roles. And I think it's a good time to assess Rohit Sharma's captaincy vis-a-vis that. He tried something very different today. 4 overs of Chahal in the first 10.
Yeah, and when we talked in that over number 10 combox, and I felt a couple of reasons. One, obvious, maybe the dew is something that he was worried about. 2, the wickets hadn't fallen at that stage. And I was also, I'm still, it's unbelievable that West Indies is only 3 down and they've lost the game. So Rohit Sharma probably was thinking wickets there. So maybe Chahal, that's why bowled so early and probably finished his quota of bowling. And the other thought was that, he all has a Bishnoi as well. So maybe he wanted to spread them in, rather than getting them both to bowl together, you know, use them as matchup, have them bowl for longer in that game. So could be a few reasons. And with Rohit, that's what you see. And, when you said assess his captaincy, after that first six in that last over, when even Ian Bishop got all excited and was trying to remind, all of us, the viewers, about what could have happened in the past. You saw Virat Kohli, Rohit Sharma walk up, take a little time, have a chat, break the momentum. So he does these little things which are different from anyone else. And he has his own way of doing it. And there will be days things will go wrong. If you had lost the game today, we would have said, oh, maybe Chahal was bowled a little too earlier, and should he have kept an experienced guy and not have Bishnoi bowl at the end? But this is what I expect from Rohit Sharma, and I am very happy watching this, because at least every game you've got something new, something exciting to watch, rather than the same old process going on.
Break the mold is what we're talking about. Hashtag break the mold. But DK, certainly it's not something we always see. There are certain kinds of slower bowlers. Akil Hussain we've seen very often from the West Indies, who do end up bowling the power play. There are others like a Rashid Khan who will never bowl in the power play. I mean, there are probably a few exceptions. And Chahal is also one of them. It's not necessary that we see him that often. Full quota, first 10 overs.
Yeah, I mean, look, we have to understand that wherever he goes, he's the main bowler. So, they tend to keep him around the 12th and 14th over, so that, when a wicket falls, they bring him and try and put pressure. If a right-hander comes and get the googly and those kind of things. But I enjoyed Rohit's captaincy today. I think it was on the money. He had these plans wherein he wanted Puran and Roman Powell to take on a Chahal early. He knows that if he gets them out at that stage, the game is almost done and dusted. So that's the punt he was willing to take. Bishnoi, the advantage is he bowls much quicker, so he can bowl slightly deeper into the inning and he'll be much safer. And that's what happened as well. He was able to bowl him much later in the game.
And the other thing was he didn't need to, explore another bowling option, because of the fact that the bowlers were showing their skills at the time when they were asked to deliver. He didn't really need to look at, if anyone, Deepak Chahar, 4 overs, none for 40, Harshal Patel, 4 overs, none for 46, doesn't actually tell the story. I mean, if you look at the score in isolation, you'd say, okay, Harshal Patel had a bad day. Wrong. He didn't have a bad day. When it mattered, he delivered.
Yeah, if you're looking at the game in scorecards next morning in the newspaper and haven't been watching the game, that's why you need to watch Cricbuzz live. You will get the scores on Cricbuzz, you will get the numbers, and then you watch the Cricbuzz live too. You're going to get the experience of what happened. And you're absolutely right. When you look at that scoreboard, 46 or 4, everybody would look at it and say, oh, Harshal Patel didn't pick up wickets, nothing happened. But when it really mattered, over number 18, I think he was the one who really changed the tide, because there's a flow going. I was talked about a little earlier about that last over. You don't want that momentum or the flow to keep going, and that 18th over is when he really pulled it back. So numbers don't tell you the full story.
They
are
certainly
facts.
Don't. They absolutely are, and that's why we also managed to get wonderful conversations that sometimes go into dinners and various other things, but always relevant to the topic at hand. 2 down, 1 to go. Yes, the series might be in the bag for Team India. 5 out of 6 they've won, but there's still a job to be done, a job to be finished. Maybe some more individuals to have a look as far as the T20 format is concerned in the year of the T20 World Cup. Yes, folks, India versus West Indies, third T20I. Trophy is decided, but so much more still to play for. We spoke at the end of the second ODI, gentlemen, trying to figure out whether there'll be changes for the third. There were. Now the question is, will there be changes to Team India for the third ODI? Dinesh Karthik, over to you.
I think so. I think we'll see a couple of changes, if not 3. Obviously, I feel that Rituraj, Shreyas Iyer, and then one of Avish Khan or Mohammad Siraj, who's had a fabulous time. I think one of them could come in. It'll be interesting to see if Kuldeep Yadav gets in. There's a lot of opportunities there for a lot of players. It'll be interesting to see which way they go. I have a feeling they will give opportunities to a few of the guys.
Yeah, when you look at guys, Rohit has talked about game time ahead of the T20 World Cup, and maybe someone like a Bhuvaneshwar Kumar, who's been around for a while vis-a-vis a Harshal Patel. So if you're looking to get a Siraj in or get an Avesh Khan in, between, say, a Bhuvi and a Harshal Patel, who would you rest?
You ask me, I'd probably rest Harshal Patel, not for any other reason, but his skills are some that the less you show to the opposition, less you show around the world. I mean, everybody knows what he does, but as you play more and more of his kind of skill, then that information will also get shared. And I think Bhuvi has had a fabulous day. You could always leave him out and say, you're ready for it. But if you want Bhuvi to play, you actually need him to give more and more time because he's still far from his best. I mean, he's an experienced player. He did what he can do with the experience, but he would probably also need a little bit of time. But that's my feeling. I have a feeling that you'll probably have, Sylvania Lakshman, Sare Ghar ke badal dalo, including, probably Kohli's had a fabulous game. He's in touch. So all the seniors might just take a break. You might see a Rahul Dravid kind of team in the next game.
I thought it was for a second you were saying you might see Rahul Dravid play as well. But yeah,
he's ready.
But DK, just to one more name to finish off on, if you wanted to see, say, Kuldeep Yadav coming in, the two leg spinners have delivered for you on both occasions in tandem. I'm sure, Bishnoi is just about started. So maybe Chahal, just thank you, but just let somebody else in.
Not a thank you for sure.
Yeah, well, not thank you in that sense. I mean, well played.
Well played. Yeah.
Yes, well done, well played. We'll see you again in the Sri Lankan series. I think Chahal would be obviously the option because you would want to get a Bishnoi to get as much game time as possible, and Kuldeep getting a game as well. He's coming as a replacement to Washington, so it's not a bad option.
Yeah, thank you came out all wrong there, but yeah, well done, well bowled. Pat him on the back. Chahal's always a team man, always around there, and will be interesting to see just how many changes there are in terms of looking at the bench strength, which is, of course, huge for Team India. For the West Indies, well, it'll be about a bit of pride. It'll be about trying to finish this series of 6 matches on a high before they, of course, head to other shores. The test team is going to be playing very soon again. We've had a look at a lot of the names. Maybe a Hayden Walsh is the one that hasn't quite got enough game time in the shortest format. Ajay and Dominic Drake. That's the other one we haven't seen at all.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see, how West Indies looks at this game because they could look at this game and say, listen, the series is over. Let's give opportunity to some guys who haven't had the opportunity on this tour. Yes, then Drakes and Walsh has still had some games in the one days, but guys who haven't got a chance, you want to see for the future. Or they could go the other way and say, listen, we've done nothing on this tour. We've lost everything. Let's put in, we got so close to winning the last game. Everything went right for us. Maybe we need to stick and add, maybe change one player here or there. We're looking at their strength. And I think I again keep going back. It's the bowling that they need to strengthen because, there was enough for the seamers to start. You saw even with our Indian bowlers when they came out to bowl in the end. So, starting with a spinner in this game, not because they've lost this game, but anybody who's watched both these games, the Pacers have had something special right at the top. And if you have a Alzari Joseph, I keep harping about him, in your side, I would bring him in because, he's capable of picking up wickets. And then the game goes in a different way. When you don't pick up wickets at the top, the game's totally different.
Yeah, well, the only time Dominic Drakes has featured in this series so far is on a joy factor question, DK. Vasbert Drakes, Dominic Drakes, IPL auction, etc. But I think he'll want to feature on the field. He's that kind of guy. He really likes to sit in a dugout and keep quiet for a second.
Yeah, he's got picked up by Gujarat Titans and he's had a good season with the St. Kitts and Nevis Patriots. So he's been a solid find. I think he's one of Bravo's understudy, so to say, and I heard he did really well in CPL as well. So it'll be interesting to see some fresh blood. But I would go like how Ajay Bhai said, try and win one game. I mean, if they've played 5, they've been outplayed in 4. This is the only one they've competed in. So I think try and play a best team on the park and try and win a game of cricket.
Yeah, I can tell you. Go ahead.
Only one question, not to you, Gautam, neither to DK. O'Dane Smith was being fought in the auction as well. Doesn't bowl much. Doesn't come to bat either very early. Give somebody else a go then.
Fair point. Fair point. We'll give KP a call and let him know.
Yeah.
But I think it's, my observation about Odin Smith is just about the kind of teams he's fitted in. For some reason, DK with the Guyana Amazon Warriors, he got those opportunities to come in at 6 or 7 or 8 and play those big innings and then bowl the heavy ball when he needed to. So maybe he just hasn't had an opportunity to showcase his skills in the way we know. But we'll see if he gets replaced. Dominic Drake's not just with ball, DK, since you mentioned the CPL, in the final, team was in tatters pretty much, and he showed that he could hang in there and finish the game with bat in hand when it all looked lost for the Patriots. So Dominic Drake's big future for the West Indies. One last thought for you before we get our joy factor question in, or the answer in. Key player to watch out for in the final game. Ajay?
Oh, it depends on who turns up, what kind of teams that they pick. Today's key player worked. Virat Kohli was, totally sublime. From India's point of view or West Indies?
Either way.
I think Ishan Kishan, because it's time. He's had a big knock in the first. He's had a knock this game. He's got out, and I think the wicket probably will work, and he's going to open. So I go with Ishan Kishan.
That was your pick for today, DK, so a different one from you.
Yeah, I think Surya Kumar Yadav, because I think he's one of those who comes back from a failure very strong. So he'll be looking to make sure that he gets some runs.
Yep. If you have a look at all the players who perform for Team India, they've won the series. He'll be looking back and saying, I should have got a few more, and he'll try and make up for that. Let's look at our joy factor question. We had a fun question in game 1, and we've had another fun question in day 2. It's about playing with words, playing with names. Which UK-based cricket franchise's name is a play on 2 IPL team names, one former and one present? And let's have a look at the answer. And if you're looking at form, Superchargers. Well done, DK. Yes, indeed. The Northern Superchargers based in Leeds. Of course, the Deccan Chargers and the Chennai Super Kings. Dinesh Karthik had a bit of an unfair advantage because of the time that he spent in the 100. But nonetheless, we'll give it to you. Well done, DK, for spotting that one. And of course, who other than Dinesh Karthik from our world of quizzing got that one right? Fastest finger first. And the winner is, once again, Rajat Bhargav. He's won in this series already. And some of our regulars have just sort of let their game slide a little bit. And Rajat Bhargav already 2 in this series. Well done. He gets a thumbs up from Joy, and he gets a thumbs up from all of us as well. Well, there it is. Just to oh, he got 2 thumbs ups from Ajay. Well done. Thank you.
Well, 2 in a row he's won.
Yeah. It's 2 in a row. Yeah, I forgot that. That was last time around. Well done. Well spotted. So it's a 5 points for DK for the Superchargers, 5 points for Ajay for spotting that. Everyone's winning here. And we've got one more match to go in this series. It's going to be Super Sunday. Result may be decided, but so much fun can be had even in what we call a dead rubber. 5-0 to India. Can it be 5-1? Will it be 6-0? We'll find out in a couple of days' time. From Ajay Jadeja, Dinesh Karthik, and myself, thank you for watching Cricbuzz Live.